Hello, good morning. Welcome to Zero Hour Today with your host, Dr. Lorenzo Neal. We are here, and we had technical difficulties trying to go live with Blog Talk Radio, so this is not going to be a regular long broadcast, but we're going to just talk a little bit about what I wanted to talk about on the radio show. So we invite you to join in with us. Um, We're promoting a knowledge that's engaging and transforming, and we are here to help you, our listeners, to knowing and impacting the world around you. And thank you for joining us on this illuminating journey. And we are so excited that you are here. First of all, yeah, we are live on Facebook. We're also live on YouTube. So if you're on Facebook watching us, thank you for joining us. Good morning. Good morning. And share this video, invite friends to come and watch this video with us, with you. Also, if you're watching my YouTube, you can please hit the like button and go to that left and like us and hit that bell to subscribe and follow us. We're trying to build up the YouTube channel, get more views so we can impact more lives. We appreciate you for joining us so far, and we appreciate your support. As we stated, we want you to be able to support us. We are on Patreon, so you can go to Patreon/Lorenzo Neal, and you can support us on there for as little as $1 a month. You help us do simple things, big things, and we just appreciate that. Also, you can support us directly. We do have Cash App. We can get that Cash App information to you. We have PayPal. You can get that information to you. If you inbox me, I'll get that information to you on how you can support us on those entities also. We appreciate want to invite you to please go and purchase our latest book, Reflections from a Pastor's Study. Matter of fact, this is the latest book, Reflections from the Pastor's Study. Go get your copy now. It's available on Amazon.com for $15 as a paperback, and for $5.99 as a Kindle. And I'm gonna still do this for a little while. If you go for a limited time only, you can get both the books I have, A Breach in the Family and this book, the latest Reflections. You can get both of those books for $25. You can inbox me for details or email me, pastorlorenzoneal@gmail.com, for that information. We thank you for your support. Please go purchase your copy today. It's a wonderful thing. It's wonderful. I'm saying it because I wrote it, of course. But we want to invite you to get your copy, and I know you will be blessed by it. So please do so. Again, it's available on Amazon.com and Amazon Prime, Amazon, and at the Kindle edition. You can also go to my website, LorenzoTneal.com, and you can order it from there. Oh boy, I'm in a good mood. But anyway, happy Wednesday to you. So I'm gonna get right into this because I'm not gonna be long. Like I said, have some difficulties, but I just want to talk about being you, being your differentiated self, having the courage to be your differentiated self. And we're going to talk about differentiation, what that means, because that's my field of expertise. That's what I did my doctoral studies in, and how that applies and how that can empower you and liberate you in your interpersonal relationships as well as your spiritual relationships. I'm really big on that, and I'm trying not to do my hands too much. But anyway, so I got the chance to see the movie Little the other day, and I really liked the movie. I think it's a wonderful movie. Everyone should go see it. It has enough comedy and comedic moments in it that are just wonderful. And I got from the movie the overarching theme of anti-bullying, and I really appreciate it. And as I understand it, that this movie is the brainchild of Marseille. I can't say her name, but she's the young actor from the hey Eric, good to see you, bro. Good to see everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please like it and leave comments as much as you can on this. But anyway, I can't remember her name just that quickly. But the young star of the TV sitcom Blackish came up with the idea for this movie and serves as the executive producer for the movie. And in that capacity, as a credit, as I understand, she is the youngest executive producer of a feature-length film. I could be mistaken about that, but that's just what I've been reading. But anyway, I did see the movie. I had a good time seeing the movie. I'm overcritical. I overanalyze, and I have to blame my music background training doing critical analysis of movies and music. I really don't get to enjoy them because I'm too busy analyzing it. And but anyway, I did enjoy the movie, and if you haven't seen it, I do encourage you to go and see it. It's a wonderful movie, great positive message, and I really enjoyed the acting, the overall acting, and everything was pretty good. But as I was watching that movie, it took me into my studies of self-differentiation, the differentiation of self, and that concept that's a broader part of family systems theory developed by Murray Bowen in the early 20th century, late 20th century, and one of the 8 concepts of his family systems theory is differentiation of self, and within the construct of differentiation of self, there are 4 other things that little subscales that fall within that. There's emotional reactivity, emotional cutoff, fusion with others, and the I position. I was observing it through those lenses. I was looking at it through those lenses and the interpersonal relationships. And it's very interesting how the spiritual overtones and religious overtones, and of course the social overtones, or I don't really say overtones, they were direct in it. You had the bully, you had the child who was bullied, who grew up to become a bully, and you had the persons who were affected by the bully, who eventually had some type of positive reinforcement to validate their existence and to validate their skills, their talents, whatever it may have been. And of course, all ends well. The bully becomes a changed person because of a experience that allows them to connect with the situations that they affect others up. So the bully gets bullied and realizes how bad of a person she is as an adult. The person who are bullied get the recognition and the validation. The children in particular get the validation from their peers, and it's a good feel-good movie. And when we look at it, when I looked at it, I was like, a lot of persons are in this space where they are not sure about themselves. Now, when I talk about the self, I'm not just speaking from this from a psychological perspective alone. There's a philosophical aspect of the self, and there's of course the psychological aspect of the self. And in my research, I had to find a way to balance that. And although I was dealing particularly with clergy and how it affects or the relationship they had of their perception of the self, their differentiated self has on their ministry and in ministry satisfaction, job satisfaction, it carries over into all things. Now, I drew a lot of inspiration from as I was preparing for this. I drew a lot of inspiration from Paul Tillich, the 20th century theologian, existentialist, Christian existentialist philosopher. It was he that Martin Luther King Jr. drew inspiration from. Matter of fact, he wrote his doctoral dissertation regarding some of the works of Tillich. Some people say he plagiarized it. I ain't even going there. But Tillich influenced Dr. King's sphere of thinking, and his that in turn affected his practice of ministry. And because he was able to present this existential perspective into his ministry, we see the results of it today. Some good, some bad, but we see the results of it. Tillich wrote a book that's called "The Courage to Be," and actually, I have that book here. I've had it in my catalog. You can't see it. Here it is. I'm gonna get better lighting. But anyway, Tillich wrote a book. In this book, The Courage to Be. And he basically articulates the self as an individual. And you got to understand, Tillich understood faith as that which is an individual's ultimate concern. The seat of which is an ultimate concern for an individual is their faith. And Tillich, in this book, deals with anxiety. He deals with interpersonal, particularly intrapersonal relationships, and how those how an individual's intrapersonal relationship, understanding of themselves, goes over into the spiritual and the interpersonal relationship, both with God and with those that they come in contact with. And one of the things he talks about in the book is the individual self, and he calls it the courage to be oneself. And in talking about the courage to be oneself, he's not talking about as we understand it today, the individualized, I'm going to be me thing, I'm going to do me kind of thing. And he wasn't talking about it from that perspective per se, although it's alluded to in his writings regarding anxiety. If you get the book and you read about anxiety, he alludes to the affect of not being individualized, being put forth out in this form of anxiety, in a form of anxiety. I'll put it that way. But much of what he says in his book and overlaps with my study in differentiation of self, particularly with the idea of fusion. And fusion is simply defined as needing other folk to validate you, or not being able to be yourself without somebody else. And I'm very guilty of that. I spent a great deal of my teenage and young adult years seeking validation from others, seeking a way to say that to say that I was worth something because of someone else. And it developed into codependency for me as a man, the need to be needed. And I think that it's still the case for a lot of young men, is that idea. They don't understand that they have been, if they grow up in a home without a positive male figure, be it their father, or be it an adult male mentor, or someone that can be in that place of a father figure, then what they develop is this sense of fusion. They have to connect with something or someone. And that interconnection can be very negative because they never really get to the point of differentiating themselves, or in this case, developing a healthy emotional state of being. And what happens is, of course, that is articulated through various means of aggression and angst, and sometimes that goes further into violence, where we commit acts of aggression and acts of violence against our own, and even in our case, in some cases against ourselves. And it's when I say our own, I was talking specifically about black and black crime, but that acts of aggression could stem from the fact that they have a negative fusion and they're not well self differentiated. And so in the movie, as I was watching, I saw the characters interplay, and I realized the primary character uh, was kind of well self-differentiated, had a healthy sense of herself, but articulated and expressed it in an unhealthy way, where her identity was articulated in her success and what she had, and so uh, relationships were poor and not valuable to her, because the only thing that was valuable to her was the external effects of her success. And then you had the the other characters who were particularly her assistant, the lady's assistant. Now, I don't know the actresses. I see them and I can't call them by name. So, it is what it is. I go to movies every now and then, and I recognize the faces. And I think I know the names, but I'm not going to call the names. But anyway, the young lady who plays her assistant is the one who does not have a healthy sense of herself, in that her relationship, the interpersonal relationship between herself and her boss, is a fused relationship. And she, through the movie she gets the chance to diffuse that and become individualized and develop a healthy I position where she can see herself differentiated from her boss. And in some cases, uh, in some cases, a lot of people can't do that. But I'm sounding too nerdy. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But anyway, back to the idea of the self, and the idea, more specifically, the concept of fusion with others, and emotional reactivity, emotional cutoff, and the I position, which are the four subsets of differentiation of self. When a person is healthily differentiated, self-differentiated, they're able to be diffused from the interpersonal constructs where they need somebody to validate them. And like going back to my personal story of that need for validation, even though I had, I was affirmed as a child, as a preacher. I was affirmed by the adults, even as a teenager, as a minister and as a preacher. And when I was, in high school, and I'm going to do all these engagements and youth revivals, youth days, and all of this, they were recognizing the gift. But I had fused myself with the need, with the gift per se. So because I started preaching so young, the identity that I had relied on the validation from others, regarding my gift. And there are a lot of people who never get beyond that. And I think that a lot of child actors get in that same mindset, and we see some of the difficulties that they experience. Now, I was very fortunate that as a child preacher, I didn't experience much of the craziness that some of these child actors experience. I did experience moments, particularly there was in my young adulthood, in my early 20s, that I can say were very, very frustrating and very, very difficult and challenging, largely because I had brought in other things to validate me. So, when you're pastoring a church as a teenager, or in your early 20s, as I was, it was difficult and challenging to find yourself outside of what you created to validate you. And it took a while. It took a long time for me. I can admit, it wasn't until my late 30s and really my very early 40s that, and I'm still in my 40s, so very early, but to my late 30s that I was able uh, to try to assess the fact that I needed to be differentiated and not validated by the external work of my ministry, but validated by the self and the value of myself. I had to find the courage to be my authentic self, and it's it's been an interesting adventure, if I can say so. It really has been a very interesting adventure. Why do a lot of people not take the time um, to be well self-differentiated? I believe there are a couple of factors. From the spiritual perspective, um, differentiation of self involves taking the risk of having to cut folk off, having to having to having to learn how not to react to others negatively, or sometimes not at all, and having the courage to begin to see yourself from the I position without it becoming narcissistic, without becoming, okay, it's all about me, but it is about me. And I think a lot of people that work, and there's a lot of books. There are a lot of books. There's a lot of stuff to do. A lot of people who do this and help people get to that point. And I have had coaching, and I do coaching too now. But I've had coach who helped me. Matter of fact, I just had Miranda Joyner. If you know her, she's a wonderful, wonderful person. She does branding coaching, and she's an amazing woman. But she has been my branding coach, and mind you, I never, ever thought that I would need a branding coach, because I'm like, I don't even know what my brand is. What's my brand? What do? I don't do anything but preach. That's all I'm good for. That's all I've been doing for almost 30 years. It's just preaching. The better part of my life has been a preaching. So I don't have anything special aside of that. And she had to help me understand, no, you have much more to offer, And I was reflecting. I was like, I got all these doggone degrees. I mean, I have all these degrees. And you know what they say about smart people? Book smart. I'm a book smart person, Sometimes I could be so book smart and have no common sense. That's just the truth. I hate to admit it live like this, but that's just the truth. And so I had to get to the point where I had to value who I had become, what all this education was really relevant for. I had one of my male mentors called me, said, "Neil, you are a jack of all trades and a master of none." And I didn't understand that. And he told me that in college, because I'm going to share this with you. The most difficult thing I had to do in college was focus on one thing, because I had, I'm ADHD. My mind goes all over the place. I'm a Gemini. I can't just stay in one thing. Once something else gets my attention, I'm going full force with that. But I had to master the art of discipline. And let me put it this way: I am mastering the art of discipline and focusing, and with some very, very good people who are aiding me in this purpose and this in what I'm doing, so that I'm not just doing things fleetingly, or I'm not just doing things effortlessly, but not effortlessly is not probably the best word. But so what I was saying before I got off on that tangent there is that there are coaches, there are books, there are resources that can help you do that. And in the book here, one of the things that that Paul Tillich cites, and I'm gonna read this right here. when it talks about being and non-being and how that correlates to anxiety that we have when it comes to our existence. He says this, said, man is essentially finite freedom. Think about this for a moment. Man is essentially finite freedom. Freedom is not in the sense of indeterminacy, but in the sense of being able to determine himself through decisions in the center of his being. Man, as finite freedom, is free within the contingencies of his finitude. But within these limits, he is asked to make of himself what he is supposed to become. All right? He is asked to make of himself what he's supposed to become to fulfill his destiny. In every act of moral self-affirmation, man contributes to the fulfillment of his destiny and to the actualization of what he potentially is or she is. It is the task of ethics to describe the entire nature of fulfillment. And he goes off into a philosophical argument there, and I'm not going to read that. But in essence, what are we saying? We are limited, but we have a freedom that is we construct within that limitations that should be used to make us better. Not just make us better, but to differentiate us so that one, as we go through and discover purpose, we go through and discover some people like to call it destiny or whatever. It's whatever you use, whatever you want to call that. As you go through that and you become your authentic self, you're able to differentiate and diffuse yourself from the external validations of others, your vocation, your wealth, or whatever it may be, that sense to give you this idea of validation in your purpose, in your pursuit, in all of that. And when you do that, you find a greater sense of liberation and a greater sense of empowerment, a greater sense of pleasure, a greater sense of ability to do more within the capacity of the existence that you have. So I think that as pastors, we don't put that out there as we should. It's enlightening to me to know that I have the capacity that while limited by my finitude, I know that I only have a certain amount of time in this physical space. I know that I have a certain amount of abilities within this temporal existence. Who's calling me? Live show, nobody. I get that later. So, all right. Maybe that's a sign for me to cut it out. But because of this finitude that we have, Tillich encourages us to recognize it, and then not just recognize it alone, but take advantage of it. Take advantage of knowing what we are, who we are, what we have, and the limitations thereof. And to use that not to live a life of anxiety about what we could be doing, what we want to be doing, what we are not doing, or what someone else is doing, but to live that as a life of courageous engagement of who we are in the present moment. So as we're engaging ourselves in the present moment, we're able to recognize and actualize who we want to be in the future moment. And as we do that, it's a powerful thing. I can't think of any scriptural support. If you can think of scriptural support for that, I'd be greatly appreciative of it. I can't think of any, but it's like I said, this all stems from me watching a movie. So imagine what I think about when I'm listening to music, especially Coltrane's. Every time I listen to John Coltrane's John Steps Band and the Love Supreme, I just get off on a tangent that just like gotta make my brain kind of stop, but it's hard to do. But anyway, I'm done with this broadcast. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I want to invite you, if you're watching by way of YouTube, hit that like button and subscribe. If you're not watching by YouTube, if you're watching by Facebook, go over to YouTube, like and subscribe. I'm trying to build this channel up and trying to do what I can. You can always, again, support me. Support me on Patreon. You can support me on PayPal. You can support me on all, whatever you, however you can. If you want to know that information, simply inbox me or email me, pastorlorenzoneal@gmail.com. Go to my website, lorenzotneal.com, and I'll be updating that soon. We got a couple of articles I need to post to it. I've written some stuff, and I'm going to post to that as soon. And again, I want to encourage you, those you can, who will, go and get my copy of my latest book, Reflections from the Pastor's Study. It's available on Amazon, both as a Kindle book for $5.99, paperback for $15, and for limited time only, very limited time only. Want to be able to get you both books, both of these books for $25. You can inbox me or email me for that information, how you can get both books for $25. I really appreciate you guys listening. Hey, Sarita, thanks, classmate, for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to catch us. We're trying to do this consistently. And I tell you, I had some difficulties doing on Blog Talk Radio. So it's not on Blog Talk Radio, but it will be on YouTube. So you can follow that. And thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful Wednesday and a wonderful rest of the week ahead. Bye-bye.